Michael Clark for the road trip here at the Blue Ocean Auto Detailing Studio, and it's time once again to retire a long-term car for the road trip. And what we've been driving is a 2013 Hyundai Accent L 5-door hatch. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Michael Clark, don't you get the opportunity to test some pretty highfalutin cars on the road trip? Well, yes, we do. But the one thing that struck me is that no one in Canada is really going after testing the base model cars. And as a rule, most manufacturers don't send a base model car through. They tend to favor the GL or the GLS trims and things that have the usual expectations of equipment, such as air conditioning, power windows, and mirrors. Well, what we're looking at here is the base car, and I'll tell you exactly why that's important. Because $13,749 is the advertised starting from price on the Accent 5-door L. The only thing is that it's very hard to actually find that type of car because not too many dealers are going to stock the base model. Most people, for a little bit extra a month, are going to get themselves into a mid-range car. But what I wanted to do is to get the base model car to determine from its core, are we dealing with a good vehicle? And taken away all the bells and whistles to determine that. So that's exactly what this car has done for a little over 4,000 kilometers. So I'm going to get into it today, tell you a little bit about what I discovered, what I thought could be improved upon, and what I really liked. Now, if you've got thoughts, feelings, or questions about anything automotive, send an email to steelbeltedmind@gmail.com. Buckle up, it's time for the road trip. Now, under the hood of the Hyundai Accent, you're looking at the same 1.6-liter Gamma 4-cylinder for the entire product range, be it hatchback or sedan. But what you also got here is 138 horsepower and 123 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to a manual transmission, as would most base cars be, but it is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, it's rated at 5.2 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. That's the best numbers we can figure from the Enter Guide for Canada. However, you can actually do better on that. In fact, 4.9 liters per 100K is very reasonable to achieve at the top speed of 97 kilometers per hour as per the Enter Guide rules. You can even do a little bit better if you actually start using a little bit of hypermiling think. But the thing you have to remember when I say hypermiling is I'm not talking about blowing through stop signs or anything like that. If you're coasting down a hill and you're headed towards a red light, why not put the clutch in? It's amazing how much fuel you'll actually save if you do that. Now, the good news is there's been no mechanical breakdown issues whatsoever with the car during the test period. The only sniggly bit on the powertrain has been the reverse gear. Now, getting into it over the first few kilometers was a little tricky, but as time goes by, seems to actually get that spot that helps to shift it in properly. The other thing I noticed is the halogen headlamps. I found them to be a little bit on the dim side. Now, you may be able to improve on that by going to an aftermarket bulb with these assemblies. Nice thing is these are assemblies that you could actually get to. There's not a lot of dismantling of the car that would be required if you wanted to upgrade the lamps. The other thing you need to remember is that over the long haul with an inexpensive car, you want to make sure that it's going to be inexpensive to maintain. And that's what I do like about the Hyundai Accent, the way that the mill is put in here. In fact, the serpentine belt assembly, very easy to get to, as well as the alternator. Now, if you take a look at the tire size on the spec sheet for the Hyundai Accent, you're going to see something pretty short and skinny. 175 70R14s on steel rims with the fashionable plastic hubcaps. But what you have to remember, it's not just about the tire size. It's also about how the wheels have been placed on the body structure. And what I was struck by with the Hyundai Accent is how much wider the track is in relation to the top of the body. So you've actually got a very planted type of vehicle when it comes to taking corners at speeds that may be a little bit higher than normally recommended. There's something about the handling on this car that really speaks to the auto journalist, especially when you know how to throttle blip and take it into the corner properly. You would expect there to be a lot of howling going on, but again, this is actually one of the better handling cars we've driven in the segment. Don't be swayed just by the fact that a car has 15 or 16-inch tires. Take a look at how the tires are placed in relation to the body. And you're going to find that cars like the Accent and ones that also follow the same type of math are going to be one of the better handling cars, whether it's just simply commuting or for emergency maneuvers. Let's take a look at the back of the car to try to explain what I mean by the width of the track. Now, as you can see, it's actually at the widest point when you take a look at the body structure. As you can see, the roof slopes up on the sides as so. So when it comes to center of gravity, the one thing that's going to be actually very hard to do is to get that tippy feeling that sometimes occurs in some of the other micro and subcompact cars out there. And you can't fix that with the size of the tires. It all comes down to how the car was built to begin with. And in that respect, the Hyundai Accent is one of the better handling cars in the segment. Now, when it comes to cargo, the Hyundai Accent out of the box actually comes with the cargo area cover, so you don't have to pay extra for that. And what I do like about it is that connecting it into the vehicle, it's not like some that are involving snapping things into place, because snapping things into place means that things are going to snap someday. Now, the other thing that it also has is a bag hook over on the right-hand side of the cargo wall. Now, the one thing I noticed about the cargo floor is that it could use something resembling a little bit of a buffer, if you will, because remember, it's going to be pushing down onto the spare tire. So heavier items, you may want to be careful when you're loading them in. There's also a light in the back, which makes it easy for loading at night. And the other thing you need to remember is that there's two pull downs here, so you're not going to get yourself all mucked up in the wintertime when the hatch is dirty. Now, if you're looking at something in the inexpensive segments, and that usually means the smaller segment of car, you want to make sure that you've got the largest tail lamp assemblies possible. That's how a lot of people are going to be able to see you. The other thing, too, that needs to be pointed out about these particular taillight assemblies is that they're using incandescent bulbs, and you would think that that might mean that they're not as bright as LED. But the way that they've been polished inside, this is actually one of the brighter taillight assemblies that I've seen in the segment. And also, incandescent means inexpensive. Now, have you ever asked yourself exactly what am I supposed to do with the seatbelt when I'm folding down the seat backs to make sure that they're not going to get all tangled? Well, it's little things that really make a difference. And on the Hyundai Accent, as well as some other cars in the segment, if you know where to look, you're going to find a little slot that's been put into the side of the panel here. So what you do is you simply take your seatbelt and plug it in like so. So that'll actually keep things from getting all tangled up. Now, the upholstery for a base car, it doesn't feel like you're sitting on as much of a backpack as you might think. In fact, it's got a two-tone base interior that looks very sharp. Now, the plastics on the inside, well, there's a lot of them, and there's very little in the way of padding for both the rear doors as well as the front doors. And that's something that you should consider, especially if you're getting into the high levels of these cars. For example, if you were looking at a Kia Rio at the high end with a heated steering wheel, you still don't get any form of padding on the sides of the doors, so keep that in mind. The back seat of the Hyundai Accent has 3 seating positions. Yeah, right. But what it also has is 3 headrests, the 3 shingle-style headrests. And we have to say that because of the obvious move to roof crush protection standards that are going to save you, that also means that things like the daylight opening are shrinking. Now, I would have to admit, I would like to see a much larger rear window for the Hyundai Accent, much like the new Versanote hatchback. Also, the shingle-style headrests, even though they suck down fairly far into the seats, they don't suck down far enough. In fact, for the majority of the test period over the last 4,000 or so kilometers, they've been sitting in a bag in the hatch. Now, when you get inside the Hyundai Accent, the one thing that you're going to notice right away is it really doesn't feel cheap. Yes, it's using a lot of hard plastics, but at least Hyundai has realized that just playing around with the textures, adding in couple of trim pieces in the center stack can really go a long way to giving people something resembling premium, and we definitely appreciate that. Now, look at what you've got here just as the base sound system. It's not only going to be able to play those newfangled CDs, but you're also able to plug in with USB as well as auxiliary inputs. 6 presets and pretty good kick and sound for those who still like to rock it. Now, the glove box is actually a fairly large size bucket, even with the War and Peace style of owner's manuals that we expect these days. The HVAC controls, very simple to operate, and the one thing that we should point out is that air conditioning is available for the base Accent, but it's installed as a dealer-added accessory, so we'll get into the pricing on that and explain what makes the most sense for you. Now, 6-speed manual, as we mentioned, very easy to shift, as also having a little bit of a reverse issue as the vehicle breaks in. But by now, we don't have those issues going on at all. We do have one 12-volt DC ahead here in the gully, so you're able to plug in your smartphone or your MP3 player. The cup holders don't have any cinchers, but they're a good depth, so they keep things from wiggling about. The front door pockets do have bottle holders. There's actually an additional open compartment behind me here. And you also have the driver's side armrest that tips down on the inboard. I don't particularly like it because I actually like to drive my car, so I keep that out of the way for the entire warranty period. Now, the wheel, this for me is a big deal because there's not too many cars these days that have a naked steering wheel. And when I mean naked, I mean there's no controls here for Bluetooth, there's no controls for cruise control. There's no controls. It's simply a steering wheel. Doesn't have thumb locators, but I wasn't exactly expecting that for a base car. Now, what I wasn't expecting as well was the abilities for driver information. So not only do I have the basics, such as the temperature gauge as well as fuel, but I've also got low fuel warning in addition to my actual kilometers, the actual liters per 100 kilometers rating, as well as real time. And that's all controlled from the trip meter function here. You've also got intermittent wipers up front. I'd like to see an intermittent function added to the rear wiper. It's strictly off and on, but there's also the expected washer. Now, it does have the auto off headlamps, but there isn't an auto setting on the stalk, so keep that in mind. Now, overhead, you've got dual vanity mirrors, which are not backlit, but you do have actually quite a bit of light that comes off of the courtesy lamps. The exterior mirrors are of the manual adjustment variety, but the thing that you need to know about the exterior mirrors, and Hyundai needs to address right away for all their cars in Canada, is that they do not have heat. So we would like to see that change, because actually Canada's least expensive car, the Nissan Versa sedan, has standard power exterior mirrors that also get heat. Now, it's not to mean that there isn't any switches at all going on inside, because we have to remember that to get yourself into the realm of being rated for safety, you've got to have safety things. Like, for example, traction control, stability control, located here just to the left of the driver, as well as the dimmer switch. There's a lot of blanks here, but remember, it is a base car. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is that the HVAC system actually works quite well for defrosting. So it's going to keep things clear come wintertime, and we've actually had a little bit of winter use with it. Now, I got to tell you, I'd like to see some love occur when it comes to manual window cranks, but even I realize that I'm probably asking for too much. But I got to tell you, I wasn't expecting to have this type of brushed finish for the door handles. And I should also point out that the vehicle has a central locking system. So from the driver door, you're actually able to lock all doors from this position. And when you use the key on the driver door, same thing occurs. There's even a driver's side height adjustment lever that definitely gets you into the right position. And what I like about it is it's not like most driver height position levers, meaning that but it doesn't have that forward angle that sometimes occurs that seems to want to dump you into the footwell. It keeps the seat bottom actually very level depending on where you need to put it. So I would definitely say that as a base seat goes, it's got good articulation. Now remember that the tilt column is just that. We're not going to have the abilities for telescoping in a car of this size, nor would we actually want it. Of course, you're probably wondering how well the Hyundai Accent does in a crash. The 2013 Hyundai Accent has 2 current crash tests available from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The IIHS scores the Hyundai Accent as good in the moderate overlap front test. It also scores good for roof strength as well as head restraints and seats. Side impact is acceptable. The 2013 Hyundai Accent is equipped with 6 airbags, dual frontal, dual front seat mounted side airbags, as well as curtains front and rear. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration rates the 2013 Hyundai Accent 5-door at 4 stars overall, as well as 4 stars for front, side, and rollover resistance. Okay, for those of you unaware of exactly what a key is, living in this land of keyless fobs and such, you put it in this little hole here, you see, and that actually opens and unlocks the door and also locks it again. But the other thing to remember is that if you're going to be getting into a base car, then you better become friends with making sure that your locks are properly lubricated and you get the water out of them for the wintertime. Otherwise, you may have to crawl through the hatch just like I used to on my 1979 Chevette. Well, you're probably wondering if it makes sense to get yourself into the L trim level, and this is what I've been able to figure out. Now, it depends on what part of the country you are in Canada, but if you wanted to actually add air conditioning to a base Accent L, you're going to be sitting around $2,000 approximately to get that put in at the dealer. Now, the other thing that you have to remember is that when you step up to the GL, you're getting a lot of the more popular equipment. So things that you're definitely going to want, not only for comfort, but also for convenience and safety. So I'd have to say that if it came down to my dollars, I'd probably step up to the GL. But it's great to test these cars at their base level to understand the core, to understand exactly how strong of a vehicle they are to begin with. Now, we've got another one on the way for you. A Mitsubishi Mirage is going to be showing up soon for the road trip. And just like this Hyundai Accent, it's going to be the base model. So stay tuned, and if you've got thoughts, feelings, or questions about anything low-dough, send an email to steelbeltedmind@gmail.com. Well, we're over at the Chevrolet stand, and I'm speaking to Jeff Luke, and he's the engineering go-to for the new Colorado for 2015. Jeff, thanks for joining us on the road trip.
Yeah, Mike, nice to be here.
Now, Jeff, I wanted to get into a little bit about that thing that's been happening to compact and mid-sized trucks, and there seems to be an attitude among some of the manufacturers to completely avoid it altogether, or to soldier on with some designs that are really getting long in a tooth.
Yeah, we've looked at the market very just as you've suggested, and the current manufacturers in there, basically Toyota and Nissan, have their products in there. We believe in coming to the market at this time with an all-new Colorado that basically reestablishes the benchmark against these 2 competitors. Will clearly change the game. We're really excited about it.
Now, changing the game, of course, is also the expectation that people are thinking of for powertrains when it comes to this type of truck, especially when you consider how efficient some of the smaller GM power plants are doing, as well as giving plenty of horsepower and torque.
Yeah, fuel efficiency is one of the areas that we really wanted to focus on, best in segment fuel efficiency, and the powertrain is a big part of that, to your point. We start with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine. You can get that with either a manual transmission or with an automatic 6-speed. So the manual 6 or auto 6. And then if you want more capability, then you can get the V6 engine, both, by the way, 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder direct injected engines, and very fuel efficient but extremely capable. And then in the second year of the production of the truck, we're going to bring to market a 4-cylinder turbo diesel at 2.8 liter.
Well, I'm excited to hear about that, especially with how well the diesels do in other markets. And let's talk a little bit about how the Colorado came to be in places where midsize is really the only truck consideration, like Thailand.
Yeah, Thailand, great point, is really the second largest pickup market in the world to the United States, and it's, as you say, it's a mid-sized market. Tough competition there. Toyota Hilux is there. The Isuzu truck is there. Our truck is in there. Ford Ranger's in there. A number of entries, and it is a large market. And our next biggest market for the Colorado is in the Brazil market, where in South America, it's a big part of lifestyle and work, and it also we have right-hand drive. Additional to Thailand, also goes to Australia. So the mid-sized market globally is large, and we think there's a clear opportunity in the U.S. and Canadian markets for bringing a great truck like this back.
Now, with the types of innovations that are going on with Colorado, do you think that you're probably going to be attracting a completely new customer, maybe one that didn't even consider truck because of the fit and finish as well as the infotainment systems inside?
Yeah, exactly. I think there are a number of customers that we're going to cater to with this truck. I'd say first is our I call them loyalists, people who drive S10 or people who drive the old Colorado will look at this truck and say, boy, I'm glad I have a truck with this kind of capability, improvement, refinement, technology. The second grouping, obviously, is the direct competitors. We talked earlier about Tacoma and Nissan customers. We think that this provides a much enhanced truck with best in segment trailering, payload, all the connectivity. The third area that I look at is against our domestic competitors, Ford and Ram. They have chosen to try to cater to the smaller truck segment with their larger trucks, and I think that there's a large part of a segment opportunity here where people would rather have a vehicle that is this size with its capability and its performance. And then the fourth area, I think, and I think you said it right on, is for example, crossovers. I think, in fact, one person said to me earlier today when they saw the truck unveiled that they were a crossover customer, but considering the market for a new vehicle, and this one, based on its size, its capability, they thought they could get a lot more versatility in a product like this, more than their crossover, and I think it will bring new customers.
Well, I think the other thing that will also get that crossover customer to you is going to be the configuration of the interior. Now, classically, vehicles in this segment and size have more or less folded passengers to put them into the rear, and as we can see behind us with this interior buck, there's definitely a lot of room.
Yeah, one of the things that we spend a lot of time doing is talking to customers, obviously, and customers who appreciate these vehicles here tell us very strongly that ensuring every millimeter of spaciousness is optimized. It basically makes the truck feel bigger. Interior is a very important thing, and so we've spent a lot of time there making sure that when you get in this vehicle, from the headroom, your leg room in the front and the back, to just overall shoulder room is very good, and you perceive it as larger than it is, and it really is an important thing to focus on. The customers really value that attribute.
Well, especially when I start seeing things like Z71 on the side, I'm very excited about off-road capability. And I'm curious, too, as to whether or not this might take away from some of the other vehicles, and how do we put this nicely, that maybe trail-rated?
Yeah, well, we the Z71 option is one that has tremendous heritage and comes with performance, and I take this capability very seriously to make sure that if it has Z71 off-road on the side. It can go where we say it can go, and it can do what we say it can do. And I think that other vehicles that are deemed as trail rated, will have to take a second look at this truck here and its performance.
Well, it sounds like a little bit of a challenge here in Los Angeles. Jeff, want to thank you for joining us today on the road trip and telling us about the new Colorado.
Mike, nice talking to you. Thank you.
Michael Clark for the road trip, somewhere near Wawa, Ontario on the Trans-Canada Highway, and on the TCH with the Volkswagen Great Canadian Clean Diesel Tour. Now, TDI means a lot to the Volkswagen brand. In fact, for a lot of the vehicles, it's about the only engine that seems to get chosen. But what you need to know is that diesel is coming into Canada in a big way. And there's competition from unlikely sources, such as the Chevrolet Cruze. The Mazda 6 will soon be available with a 2.2-liter Skyactiv diesel. So people are getting their heads wrapped around what diesel can do for them. What we wanted to find out on this trip is how the rest of the Volkswagen diesels perform. So it's not just about this Beetle. There's going to be the Passat, as well as the Golf Wagon, and the Touareg. So we've got a mix between the 2 liters as well as the 3-liter 6. So we wanted to see exactly how well they're going to handle this terrain. And also another question that has to be asked is, if the diesels are doing this well for Volkswagen, why are other manufacturers not jumping on board, especially because so many have global diesels available? We're going to try to answer all of those diesel questions today on the road trip. And if you've got thoughts, feelings, or questions about anything automotive, remember, send an email to steelbeltedmind@gmail.com. From the TCH, this is Michael Clark. Buckle up. It's going to be one heck of a road trip.
Volkswagen has offered diesel engines in our cars since the 1970s, and TDI, which is turbocharged direct injection, has been a part of our lineup since 1993. It's never been more important to our lineup than it is right now, and almost 30% of all our sales in Canada are made up of Volkswagens equipped with TDI clean diesel engines. We really think it's a technology whose time has come, something that gives customers the opportunity to have a powerful car that gives you excellent fuel economy, low emissions, and all the drivability you've come to expect from a modern automobile. Today's modern TDI clean diesel engine is everything you would expect from a powertrain. It's powerful, it's fuel efficient, and it's extremely environmentally clean. Yet there's still a misconception out there among many customers that diesel is that old clunky diesel that they remembered from the 80s. Spewing smoke, stinky, underpowered and such. And for that reason, it's still making up a fraction of the market in Canada. But we think now, with more emphasis on fuel economy in Canada, with more emphasis on the road trip and such, that more and more customers are going to come to realize that yesterday's diesels are long gone. Today's TDI clean diesel is everything you could possibly want and more, and we really think there's an opportunity for people to get into this car at a great price for the long term.
Hello, friends. Loud and fast here. You know, every business needs a leader, and the leader in the automotive information business in Manitoba is the Road Trip on Shaw TV. On the Road Trip, they talk about all kinds of cars. Sporty cars, like this Chevrolet Corvette with bucket seats and FM radio, this Toyota Camry Hybrid, which is practical and reliable, as well as even trucks. Trucks for work, trucks for play. Even classics like this 1966 Chevrolet Nova with power steering. So tune into the Road Trip on Shaw TV and keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down.